today. One of the things I love about the NYPD is we're always coming up with innovative ideas in order to keep New Yorkers safe. So appreciate you being here today. So good afternoon. I'm here today to talk about the new Asian Hate Crimes Task Force. During the coronavirus pandemic starting in March, New York City experienced 21 anti-Asian hate crimes. This increase was cultivated due to the anti-Asian rhetoric about the virus that was publicized, and individuals began to attack Asian New Yorkers. Either verbal attack or physical assault. We saw a spike in every borough throughout the city. Asian New Yorkers were attacked on trains, buses, parks, restaurants, and walking in their own neighborhoods. And even though our hate crimes task force was doing a good job investigating those incidents, we did notice there was a reluctance with several of our complainants to follow up with the active investigation. Deputy Inspector Stu Lowe came to me in May regarding putting a task force together of Asian investigators to assist with the issues we saw with our complainants. Be it language barriers, cultural differences, or fear of the police, this task force would gain their cooperation through the investigation, the arrest, and prosecution process. This task force is led by the Deputy Inspector and consists of 25 Asian American investigators. We've had 21 anti-Asian hate crime incidents with a result of 17 arrests. 4 of the 17 were enhanced by the task force, as well as other incidents they have been proactive investigating. This task force has been built and will continue to build trust and understanding between the NYPD and the Asian New Yorkers. Now I'm going to pass it over to Deputy Inspector Stu Lowe.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you for helping putting together this task force. Putting this task force is a huge statement, and it's saying that we care about Asian Americans. It says that the NYPD supports social justice, and that NYPD will not tolerate racism or discrimination of any form. I also like to thank the detectives to the right, who left of me, the greatest detectives in the world, and that's not an overstatement. Good afternoon. I'm Deputy Inspector Stuart Lumenhan, South Detectives. And here in New York City, historically, Asian Americans has been targeted as crime victims at a disproportionate rate. And this past March, we noticed a very disturbing trend. Online, social media videos being posted of Asian Americans being verbally harassed, physically assaulted, with no provocation, other than the reason of being Asian. This wasn't just a New York City phenomenon, it was worldwide. And this hit home for me because I have friends, families who are legitimately afraid to go outside because they fear for their safety. And putting this task force together is about addressing many concerns, not just the fear of being a crime victim, but more importantly, the fear that no one cares, that no one's doing anything about it, and that Asian Americans are not as important as other people. I'm here to say without question with this task force that we do care, and that the NYPD is doing everything they can for the Asian American community in this regards. This task force is formed of 25 Asian American detectives who all speak a different language, Asian language, whether it's Cantonese, Mandarin, Japanese, Korean, Tagalog. So we have the resources. Not only they have the language skills, they have the experience and the investigative skills. So this is very important because prior to this, all we had was translator, and as everyone knows, translators cannot build rapport, they cannot do investigation. So this is a milestone in investigative investigations. This task force will build a bridge with our victims, whether it be the language barrier that we previously mentioned, social, cultural differences, or just the general distrust of police. I'm very proud to be here to announce this Asian Hate Crime Task Force. And I'd like to thank Chief Harrison for putting this all together. Thank you.
After Chief Harrison and Inspector Liu will take on topic questions. First question, Tina?
Chief, I'm wondering, these 21 Asian American hate crimes, what period? Can you give us a time period for them?
So we saw our first one on March 21st, and our last incident was in the beginning of August. So it's been a couple months. We saw the biggest spike in the month of May. But a lot of great work was done by the investigators from the Hate Crimes Task Force, but this has definitely helped enhance the investigation, strengthening those relationships with our unfortunate complaints.
Are you aware of how many of the 17 arrested were actually prosecuted?
I don't have that number, but I'll get that for you guys.
Thank you.
Rocco? Oh, I'm sorry.
You said 17 of the 21 resulted in an arrest. Can we just get an idea if that's higher than normal, lower than normal, and where in the spectrum of all hate crimes does that kind of proportion exist?
That's definitely higher than normal. And once again, I have to commend Sulo for identifying the right investigators to help with the enhancements. It's definitely been extremely instrumental in getting our victims, our complainants to come forward to cooperate. We did see in the beginning stages some of our victims showing a little reluctancy of coming forward or even following up on the case. Once we developed the relationships, they came forward and were helping to identify the perpetrators that committed the crime.
Chief, is this going to be a permanent task force beyond the pandemic? And if so, is it something that you might consider for other groups most of who are represented mostly by, let's say, first generation immigrants who might have similar concerns about dealing with police, coming forward, cooperating with authorities, et cetera?
So Rocco, I would like to make this a permanent task force. I think it's extremely valuable to the police department, to the city of New York, to the residents. We'll evaluate if we're going to maybe expand to other task force for other cultures, but right now we're focusing on this and some of the issues we're seeing with the anti-Asian hate crime attacks.
When you say hate crimes, do you have a breakdown on how many were actual assaults, or was it just language, or sometimes hate crimes could be a writing on a wall? I mean, do you have that breakdown?
Yeah, I do have a breakdown, Dean. I don't have it in front of me, but I'll make sure I get that to you guys.
The incident in Brooklyn where the elderly woman was slapped and allegedly tried to set on fire, are you ruling that a hate crime at this point?
No, we're not ruling it as a hate crime. Doesn't mean that we wouldn't deploy our task force to strengthen that relationship with her if she seems to show a concern about coming forward, but right now that's not a hate crime.
Chief, if I could just follow up for yourself and for the inspector. So you talked about people coming forward, filing the initial complaint, and then being reluctant to follow through. So what went on between the filing of the complaint and the point at which they became reluctant? I know every case is a little bit different, but just broadly speaking, can either you or the inspector speak to that?
Sure. So I'll talk about that, and I'll pass it over to the deputy inspector. You know, people initially called 911, and our complainants were there at the scene. Then the assigned investigator from the Hate Crimes Task Force would try to reach out to that victim, and they were somewhat evasive in regarding trying to work with the detectives to follow up on the case. We put together the task force. We went out several times to talk to the complainant, and the follow-up was absolutely remarkable regarding either looking at a lineup, photo array, or whatever they had to do to identify the perpetrator. So you want to say anything else about that?
The victims tend to change their mind all the time. They'll come forward because they're pressured to by friends or family, or they wanted to in the beginning. But as time goes on, for whatever reason, they might have not built a rapport, or the language barrier, cultural differences. They might change their mind if it takes too much time. We're actually proactive too, because we have complaints that aren't reported, things that happen that we see online, and I'm looking for the police report. There is none. We've actively searched, like this incident on March 20th in transit, where a male agent and his girlfriend was being verbally harassed and eventually assaulted. That was posted online, but they never made a police report. We were able to contact them. Hate Crimes Task Force was able to contact them. They wanted nothing to do with the police investigation. I had Detective Michael Moy and Danny Zhang. They went out there. They found the victim, and they were able to get cooperation that resulted in arrest. So that's what we like to see.
Is that the one in downtown Brooklyn? You remember where that was, by chance?
Seymour and Boyd.
Deputy Inspector Stuart Lou, and South Detectives. I have 20 years on the job. I spent most of my career in the Detective Bureau, and I'm the coordinator for the Eastern Hate Crime Task Force. With me, I have 3 of my young investigators, not that young, but 3 out of the 25. So I brought these 3 because they have 3 different language skills: Cantonese, Japanese, and Mandarin. This is Vince. He's from the 7th Squad. Annie from Grand Larceny. Chuck from the 9th Precinct Squad.
So, how did you pick them? Are they coming to you, or you pick them?
I picked them. They're handpicked. They're the best. That's why.
Okay. So, can you talk a little bit about the case that you mentioned in the press conference?
So this was a case that was circulated online, and it went viral. Just a guy in the subway, he's on the train. An individual was yelling, screaming, cursing at him. Eventually, he assaulted him. Okay? He was with his girlfriend, and this particular video circulated everywhere. I'm sure you guys seen it. It's been since it happened on March 20th, and this individual never made a report. Right? It came to my attention through friends and family. Like, look at this, what he's doing about this person you're being about. So I looked into it. There was no report done. We were able to track the guy down through social media, and the Hate Crime Task Force went out there to try to speak to him. He wouldn't speak to the Hate Crime Task Force. They tried calling. They did everything they can. They did a great job. But he was unresponsive to the Hate Crime Task Force. So I sent, Danny was the investigator I sent out, and he did a great job. He was able to break through the barrier and interview the victim, and we got an arrest for him. And that's Danny about the.
Yeah, you can speak.
Okay. So Inspector sent me and Detective Moy out to reach out to the victim. We went to a house. At the beginning, the landlord was the relative of the victim that refused to let us speak to the victim. So I told him, just give me one chance. Let me speak to her. If he refused, then we just leave. So the victim and the girlfriend came out. We pretty much told them there's no coincidence 2 Asian detectives come knock on the door. That showed the city cares and this department cares. So after we were able to convince them, next day we went back, we did a double-blind photo array, passed on to the case detective, and then they were able to make an arrest out of it. And then during the course that communication through the district attorney's office and the Hate Crime Task Force detective, I was able to link them up as well, and the case went through and was fully prosecuted.
How did you persuade them to?
Like I say, I told you I'm a first-generation immigrant. I told them, hey, I understand certain countries that do not want to deal with law enforcement. I understand that. My parents been through that. So it's kind of first-hand experience and no pressure at all. And like I said, we told them there's no coincidence that 2 Asian detectives, that to show that this department really care about these type of cases. And we want to help them out. So they were able to persuade that they came forward.
Okay. So are you going to continue to do like proactive investigation, or this
Absolutely.
is one thing that's...
Absolutely, 100%. You know, you guys could, if you guys run into something through your work, you can contact me directly if it's not reported. Okay, I'll filter it out to the right people, and we will personally get on it. In the New York State Penal Law, okay, obviously you have to be under like a protected class. Okay, it has to be motivated due to the fact you're that race, for no other reason. You know, if someone robs you for money, you're Asian, that's not a hate crime. They're attacking you for the simple fact of being who you are, that's a hate crime. That's a hate crime. So how do we get involved? We fall under the umbrella of Hate Crimes Task Force. So when they come across a crime that they feel is relevant to us, they call us. We're like a supplemental unit that helps them out.
Actually, I have a question. So before, actually, I interviewed officers from the hate crime units, and they told me that there's no report, there's no investigation, no arrest. So when did this change?
Well, listen, New York City Police Department, we take reports and we take cases, right? If there's no report, then it's hard to take cases. It's hard. I'm taking it upon myself to proactively look. It's not a protocol. It's not a mandate. I do it because I want to do it. I see something. I want to see this report taken. If not, I will try to personally reach out.